So the question is, why are English teams so crap in Europe? Well, I think the reason is it happens on a lot of different levels. It's not just a simple thing, they ain't good enough. But on many occasions, they ain't good enough. I mean, if you start with Man United, I've said on a lot of videos, and I've written a lot of articles about Man United from about a year and a half back, starting when I thought the decline really got going, when a couple of years ago when they were outclassed by Athletic Bilbao in the Europa Cup, and they were then beaten and dumped out of the Champions League by Basel. I think the problems really started then, even though they won the Premier League last year. And now you've got a team which is, 50% of the team is over the hill, and their best days are 3-4 years behind them. You can't compete in the Premier League, as it's shown, and you certainly can't compete in the Champions League when you've got half a team that's over the hill. Now they find themselves 2-0 down to Olympiacos, and they've got it all to do. They could turn it round, but it doesn't look good. Okay, we'll look at Chelsea. Now Chelsea are probably the team that managed to adapt the best of all in Europe. They manage the helter-skelter of the Premier League, because that's what it is. I think that is one issue as well. A lot of these teams get sucked in every week to playing this fast, furious football in the Premier League, and then they can't change when they go into Europe, and the pace changes, and the style of play changes a bit. But Chelsea seem to be able to do that. They can play the helter-skelter stuff, they can play the physical stuff, they can play the skillful stuff in the Premier League when they need to, but then when they go into Europe as well, they can adapt. And they've found a way over the last 10 years, even though they've changed a lot of players, and that isn't always good in my book. In fact, it ain't good at all, because you've got to give a team a chance to gel and mould together. I'm going to come on to that later. But they in a good position. I mean, they won all against Galatasaray the first leg of the Champions League, and they will probably go through to the next round. Okay, so then we look at Man City. Now, Man City, for me, is the ultimate in what doesn't make a good team. You buy loads of players, spend loads of money, you can bully teams in the Premier League, beat them 5-6-0, beat your Norwiches, your Cardiffs, they've beaten Tottenham as well, plenty past Tottenham, plenty past Arsenal, beating good teams as well. But they can beat all the teams in the Premier League on their day. But when they get into Europe and they play against a team that can punch as hard as them, or can play as well as them, and can pass as well as them, and can do all the things that they can do and better, then they break up very quickly. They disintegrate before your eyes. Now I think this is purely because it reminds me of like an English boxer who's great at domestic level, and they put rubbish opponents in front of them and they can knock them out in 1 round, 2 rounds. A bit like from years ago, a guy called Errol Christie. He was putting everybody down, and then suddenly he went into the Commonwealth and he's still beating people, and as soon as he stepped up and met good quality opponents who could do the same as him and better, he was out of the game. He wasn't good enough. And I think Man City, look, they were great players, but they are still not a team, because they disintegrate straight away as soon as teams play against them. I mean, Barcelona, when they started passing around Man City the last half hour of that game, it was embarrassing at times. I mean, you would have thought that Man City were bottom of the Spanish league if that was a league game. And Barcelona are probably in their worst state for the last 5 or 6 years as far as form goes. They've been beaten too many times in the last month for a club like Barcelona, and Man City got outclassed for long periods of that game. So what's going wrong? You buy loads of players, you buy top quality players, and you're still not good enough. I would say stop buying so many players. Man City don't need to buy another player for another 2 or 3 years. Work with what you've got. Get these guys. Of course they've got the skills, they've got beautiful football skills, but they have to be together up here when they play teams like Barcelona, when they play the Real Madrids, when they play the Bayern Munichs, and at the moment they are miles away from competing with the top teams in Europe. For me, they're nowhere near the top 10 in Europe, absolutely nowhere near. I think some teams quite a way down in Europe who are good teams could take Man City apart. So we move on to Arsenal. Now Arsenal, I think, was a different kettle of fish. I think the Arsenal problem was they just met the best team in Europe at the moment. Simple as that. You know, Arsenal do have a way of playing a Premier League and playing in Europe, but they met Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich will beat everybody at the moment. I mean, the way they annihilated Barcelona last season just shows what a team they are. So a little bit of bad luck on the Arsenal front. And I think they're doing well. They don't buy too many players. They have become a unit. So well done to Wenger, well done to Arsenal. You just met the wrong club. And then I thought Tottenham was a great example last night. Again, Tottenham have fallen for that same trick as Man City. Just buying players for the sake of buying players, instead of working with what you've got and moulding a team and getting guys working together and liking each other and understanding each other. Not for the games when you're 4-0 up, but for the games like last night when you're struggling and then you have to come together. You know, I saw a video the other day of Leeds United against Southampton from 1972. Watch it, it's a great video where they're passing all around Southampton like Barcelona do now. And you won't believe it. If you've not seen it, please watch it. It's unbelievable. Leeds United, 1972 v Southampton, some of the best football I've ever seen. It was crazy. And they said, would this Leeds United team be able to compete in the Premier League at the moment? And everyone said, oh no, they wouldn't be good enough. No, they wouldn't be good enough because they wouldn't be fast enough. Believe me, all the best players in the world have never been speed merchants. Zidane, Messi, to name but a few. But okay, they're quick off the mark, but they ain't 100-metre sprinters. This Leeds United team would have probably walked away with this Premier League at the moment. Why? Because they were a great team who understood every bit of ground that each other covered. They knew exactly where each other was on the field, here and at the feet. Man City, our so-called best team in the Premier League at the moment, are all over the place when they play a good team. They break up. So, for me, it's a combination why teams are failing. Arsenal front, they just met a great team. But the other combination that's not working is the helter-skelter of the Premier League, and some teams cannot adapt then to Europe. And then the main thing for me, buying too many players and not working with what you've got.